All right, Sam, welcome to the Exploring Fitness podcast.
Thanks, man. I'm happy to be here.
Pleasure to have you. So, why don't we just start out by uh, first
Mhm.
tell me what is fitness to you in 30 seconds or less?
Without spouting off CrossFit's definition of fitness.
Uh, Probably without spouting off
Okay.
CrossFit's definition.
Fitness is freedom. Um, I believe there's a direct correlation between how fit you are and how free you are to do the things that you would like to do. And I also believe there's an inverse relationship as well. So the less fit you are, the less free you are.
Freedom to do things.
Yeah, for sure.
Oh, love it. We'll get back to that in a little bit.
Okay.
But why don't you go ahead now and tell everybody a little bit about yourself, who you are, what you do, all that kind of stuff. Because similar to me, I know that you always have 1,000 things going on. So go ahead and update everybody.
Wonderful. Um, so who am I? Well, my name is Sam Burns. I'm a professional CrossFit coach. I should say CrossFit trainer, but because there is a distinction between coach and trainer, but we can go down that rabbit hole later. Um, I have been teaching, training, coaching CrossFit professionally for 7 something years, like that. Um, I'm a certified CrossFit Level 3 trainer, so um, spent a lot of time kind of gathering knowledge and trying to be the best version of a coach that I can, and that's as high as I've ascended in that particular knowledge hierarchy. Um, I'm also a member of CrossFit Gymnastics seminar staff, so I have the opportunity to travel the country and sometimes the world and teach people how to be better practitioners of gymnastics, specifically aimed at CrossFit, because there's a major education opportunity there for trainers and for practitioners of CrossFit to be better at gymnastics and therefore to get fitter. um, I am a husband and a father. Um, I have a wonderful wife, Katie. I have 2 boys who are 1 and 3 years old. God help me. And I, what else? I have the good fortune to be able to um, have my hands on a lot of pies in CrossFit and in the functional fitness world. I own a small personal training business, and I also work for an organization. I counsel for them, and I help coach, guide, mentor other coaches and CrossFit affiliate owners to better success and therefore greater financial freedom as well.
Awesome. Um, just for those who aren't familiar with um, the CrossFit coaching hierarchy, so you said that you're level three. You just kind of fill everybody in on the different levels and what you can kind of like max out at, I
Yeah,
guess.
for sure. So um, to be both ethically and legally able to practice CrossFit as an instructor, as a trainer, you have to at the very least undergo a level 1 certification. So you attend a weekend certification, and you pass a test at the end, and then great, you're a level 1 certified CrossFit trainer. Um, Beyond that, there is a more in-depth course that deepens your knowledge of teaching and seeing and correcting, which are some of the elements of an effective trainer. It's a very intense drill down on probably how you do your training day to day inside of your CrossFit affiliate and how that could be better, which is as uncomfortable as you want to make it. And if you pass the test at the end of that course, then you're a certified level 2 CrossFit trainer. Then there is a much larger exam. It is a big, broad, sweeping exam of strength and conditioning, nutrition, um, you know, safety, health and wellness in general, but also CrossFit. That's the CrossFit Level 3 trainer examination. It is just a test. It's not an assessment of any kind. And then above that, you have the Level 4 assessment. So the level 4 assessment is a real-time, in-person assessment of your ability to coach CrossFit to CrossFit's standards, highest standard, I should say. And you are being assessed by some of the best coaches in CrossFit. Um, it is only once you achieve the level 4 that CrossFit gives you the distinction of coach. Everything below that is trainer, which is a little muddy for like most people's day-to-day nomenclature. Um, there are, I think it's something like 300,000 um, minimum level 1 certified trainers. Probably 2% um, of that number, people have ascended to level 3 trainers. So level 3 is a pretty small pool. And then now they have recently released the level 4 after many, many, many years. And there are a handful of candidates who have taken the assessment and passed. Many people have had to take it more than once. And those people now have the distinction of being called level 4 certified coaches.
Sweet. So you are one of 2% that hold the level 3, which means you
Yeah,
essentially know a lot about CrossFit and the methodology and that kind of stuff.
yeah. I mean, it objectively, if I've passed the level 3, I could be considered a subject matter expert on CrossFit's view of strength and conditioning. I've also supplemented my education in other places. So I consider myself a strength and conditioning coach with a specialty in CrossFit and gymnastics.
Wonderful. So in my inaugural episode of this podcast, I kind of went down the rabbit hole of,
Yes.
um,
I love a good rabbit
well,
hole.
yeah. So the premise behind the episode was, if the name of this podcast is going to be exploring fitness, we better have an idea of what it is we're trying to explore.
Yep.
Therefore, we better have a definition of what fitness is.
Yep.
So, went through a very superficial kind of run through of CrossFit's definition of fitness,
Hmm.
along with um, the supporting models behind the methodology
Hmm.
and fitness in 100 words,
Hmm.
those kinds of things.
Yep.
But again, very superficial.
Yep.
But with you being a CrossFit content expert, I was hoping that we could dive into maybe one of those supporting models a little bit deeper.
Yeah, I'm here for it.
Yeah. So, and this one supporting model in particular,
Hmm.
I think goes along with what you said or what fitness is to you
Hmm.
at the beginning of this episode, where you
Yep.
said it's freedom to do things. I was thinking maybe we dive into the Hopper model
Cool.
and the concept of general physical preparedness
Cool.
and kind of what that is.
Yep.
And yeah,
Beautiful. Okay, to so there's a bunch of places we could start here. Since you called this a rabbit hole, let's start with the idea of the hopper and how it came about, and then we can get into the hopper itself. Okay, so um, the hopper is one of 4 different theoretical models to explain fitness. When CrossFit was first being started, it was an open source model. So Greg Glassman was the only coach. He was practicing CrossFit. He had great success with people, and he started to outsource this to other people. And it started at CrossFit.com. That was the only place anybody could do CrossFit circa 2001, 2002. And so everybody who did CrossFit got CrossFit straight from Greg's brain. And Greg's idea was, I'm going to get as much data back from people as possible and then use that to inform the model. He was figuring things out in real time. He did not burst onto the internet in 2001 with a fully formed methodology and like a level 1 manual ready to go. Like he made all that up, not made it up. He figured all that out on the back end. So he was testing these workouts and figuring stuff out, and he called it a black box concept where they would do a bunch of stuff and then see what happens on the backside. And the doing a bunch of stuff is the black box. It's the stuff happens that you don't quite understand because it's inside of a black box. And so by observing and quantifying the outcomes of these experiments, of these fitness tests, they worked backwards to establish a hypothesis using these models. And then they would test again, right? And so it was through many, 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 many iterations like this that they figured out these models. So that's where the
Measurable, observable, and repeatable.
absolutely. And the goal was to find a definition for fitness that would stand up to academic rigor. Because prior to this, I want to make this 100% clear, there was no measurable definition for fitness.
Yeah, I talked about the Merriam-Webster definition and what you can actually find on Wikipedia,
Oh
which is
man.
slightly better, but still provides us like
A
zero
little.
information about what it is.
Right? The state or condition of being fit.
Yeah,
So this is what we were up against, and it's better. It's not fixed in terms of like what you see on social media and things like that, but that was the goal. That's where all of this came from. So the hopper is a theoretical model that contends this idea. If you have a first of all, for those of you who don't know what bingo is and are not old enough to have gone to a county fair, a peanut hopper is a gigantic rotating barrel. And so you put it over a fire, you stick a bunch of peanuts and oil in there, you turn it, and you get roast peanuts, right? Also, if you've ever been to a bingo hall, they've got that big clear net and they rotate it like this. And then they pluck the balls out and they call B16. And then somebody plays bingo. That's the hopper. That's the idea that we're talking about here. So imagine you have this big barrel and you fill it with little balls. And on the little balls, you write every movement you can think of. You gymnastics stuff, dips, push-ups, sit-ups, presses, holds, handstands, muscle ups, whatever. Weightlifting, bench press, anything powerlifting, um, sandbag carries, strongman stuff. You put in Olympic lifts, snatch, clean, and jerk, all that stuff. You also put in endurance efforts, row, bike, ski, run, sprint, everything you can come up with. And then on a bunch of other balls, you put on numbers. And they, for the sake of simplicity, you have high volume work, you have medium volume work, you have low volume work. And then you put on loads, heavy things, medium things, light things. You put on distances, long distance, medium distance, short distance, time domains, whatever. You get infinite number of options and variations. And then you throw them all into the hopper, right? And then as you pull them out, you use them to build workouts, right? You use the numbers, the movements, the distances, the loadings, all of those things to build and construct your workouts. The hopper model contends that he or she is fittest who does best across the widest variation of varied tasks. So, regardless of what comes out, he or she is fittest who doesn't have to win everything, but collectively is going to do best across all of the tasks. And it was actually the inspiration for the first CrossFit Games that was held on the Aromas Ranch in California. They had a big peanut hopper. That's how they came up with the events. So they actually tested this. I think it was 2007 or 2008. That's the hopper model.
fantastic. So reach into the hopper, marathon gets pulled out.
Yep,
A marathoner is going to love that event.
for sure.
Next event gets pulled out, 1 rep max, snatch.
Yep.
An Olympic lifter is going to love that event.
And the marathoner's not going to love that event.
Correct. And the Olympic lifter is probably not going to love the marathon.
Probably.
So
You're hinting at something very important there.
I am hinting at something very important.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So I'm gonna. Do you mind if I just like walk right into it?
might as well.
So there's an implicit um, there's an implicit consequence inside of that model, right? He or she is fittest that does best across the widest variation of tasks, skills, and drills, whatever. Well, there's going to be some stuff in there that you're bad at. There's going to like If you're a sprinter, you're not going to like heavy work. If you're a power lifter, you're not going to like marathon work, right? We're not talking about specialists. This is the first thing. A person who is a marathon sprinter could be said to be incredibly aerobically capable. However, nobody would look at professional marathoners and say, yes, I am sure that person can squat triple their body weight. And yet we would all say that strength is definitely a component to fitness. So if we're looking for the fittest person, things have to be balanced. So if there are things that come out of the hopper that you are bad at, the implication is you will be best served by seeking headlong in your day-to-day training the things that you fear to come out of the hopper. If you're bad at gymnastics and you hate gymnastics, and so normally you don't do gymnastics, the biggest hole in your fitness will be gymnastics. If you love lifting and you love gymnastics and physique work and calisthenics, but you hate long distance or sprinting, something like that, you should probably do that every once in a while, maybe more than every once in a while, because your greater overall fitness is going to be more served to a better degree, let's say, by doing the things you are bad at, which dovetails very nicely into the other thing that you were talking about, which is GPP.
Yeah, I love that. So I believe one of the sayings is that the specialty of CrossFitters is not specializing,
Yeah.
or something
Yeah.
along those lines.
Yeah. If you there's another way that that is said. If you take a person who gets a person who has the capability, a single person who has the capability of a novice 800-meter track athlete, a novice Olympic weightlifter, and a novice gymnast, that person will be fitter than any world-class track athlete, Olympic weightlifter, or gymnast, because they have a broader base of fitness. And so that person who doesn't specialize, who is capable across a broad set of tasks, is tremendously physically capable.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
So, general physical preparedness. Can we elaborate on that
Yeah.
specific phrase any more in depth?
I think we can for sure. And to for it to make sense, we have to kind of remember where we came from. So prior to the concept of GPP, uh, people in large part did what is called segmented training. So, and for many, many people, this will sound very familiar. Monday is back and buys, Tuesday is chest and tries, maybe Wednesday is leg day if you hate yourself, and more likely than not, you'll do some cardio work, like a whole day for just cardio. So that's a segmented training model. And the idea, again, this is a black box concept. The idea was Mother Nature doesn't give two figs what day you train on. And so it doesn't give a darn what day of the week it is. It doesn't give a darn if you squatted yesterday and so your legs are a little sore, so you probably shouldn't squat today. Like Mother Nature doesn't care. And so part of the goal of CrossFit in specific was through this concept of general physical preparedness, GPP, you would be prepared for the unknown and the unknowable, right? So if you want to be prepared for the unknown and the unknowable, you want to be the greatest possible level of capability at any given point in time. Well, segmented training yields segmented results. And here's a way to kind of imagine this. If you have a single person who can run a 5-minute mile, it's a pretty good mile time, right? That same person can do a 500-pound deadlift. That's a pretty good deadlift. More likely than not, the first time you ask them to do, let's say, 5 rounds for time of 400-meter runs and 10 deadlifts at 225. We would call that a moderate deadlift for the male that is being prescribed that load, and a 400-meter run is a short distance. It's not a long distance. So aerobic work, moderate to heavy lift. Aerobic work, moderate to heavy lift, alternating back and forth. For that person who's got that 5-minute mile and that 500-pound deadlift, if they don't mix their modalities, their weightlifting and their endurance work or their aerobic work, the first time you mix them, the wheels are going to come off the bus. They're going to have a bad time. And so that is almost everybody's universal experience in CrossFit. They come from this background of segmented training, and they come into this thing where it's like, wait, I'm gonna weightlift and I'm gonna run and I'm gonna do it back and forth. I'm like all in one workout. Yep. And you're telling me I can do this in like 20 minutes and that's gonna be the whole workout. Yep. And then at the end of 20 minutes, they're laying on their back and they're gasping for air, like their lungs have never worked before. And you keep coming back, and that feeling goes away and you become more capable, and you get into this world of fitness where now if you want to go back and you want to do 400-meter intervals, it's a much easier time. You want to just do deadlifts, it's a much easier time. But by mixing modalities, you've increased your overall capacity, your overall capability. And this is the concept behind general physical preparedness. The person who mixes modalities, gymnastics, weightlifting, aerobic work, regardless of how that is expressed, whether it's powerlifting, snatching, or flip splits, holds, or running, rowing, biking, skiing, etc. The person who mixes these modalities is going to be more capable and more generally physically prepared than a person who segments their training. So that's the concept behind GBP, and it's one of the major drivers behind how CrossFit is expressed.
How many rounds do you think you could get of 400-meter runs and 10 deadlifts at 225 in 20 minutes?
So AMRAP 20, 400-meter run, and 10 deadlifts at 225. So 400-meter run, for I would probably approach that as a 2-minute or slightly sub 2-minute. I would just hold a steady pace. After round number 1, my lungs are going to be on fire. And so it's not the run, it's going to be how much time I rest in between. So you figure 5 rounds of 2-minute runs at least that's 10 minutes. I'm aiming for 5+ rounds at 225 with only 10 reps. My goal would be to reduce the rest as much as possible, 10 unbroken reps every single time, and then drop the bar head rate back out the door. I'd love to get, I don't think it'll happen, but I would tell myself my goal is 7 rounds.
Okay, let's
Yeah.
test it. Hey, you brought it on yourself.
I
You
did.
brought it on yourself.
I did. Actually, today would be a good day for that too.
It would.
Damn it. Okay, well, that's what I'm doing later.
Ready for the unknown.
Yep.
No warm up. Like a gazelle about to get chased by a lion.
Well, that makes me think of Kelly Starrett and the Supple Leopard book. I think we're generationally, I think we're a little, if you don't know what I'm talking about, go Google Kelly Starrett and how to become a supple leopard, or just buy the book and read the book and have that book. It's an amazing book. I think we as humans are ill constructed for that right now. I think I'm more capable than the average bear, meaning male of a given age living in a first world country. And for that, I'm very grateful. But I don't relish the idea of going 0 to 60. Like I sprinted my little kid up the hill the other day and I was like, damn, am I wearing the right shoes for this? I got to make sure I don't pull a hammy or something like that.
Ill constructed or ill prepared?
A little bit of both, certainly ill prepared. Ill constructed in that we have not constructed our lives to facilitate that kind of function and operation. And as human beings, we're the only creatures on the earth that can do that. we can construct. We have one, we have the cognition to be aware of that, and then two, we have the ability to construct the world around us to facilitate that kind of thing. Um, I, in that particular sense, we're ill constructed and very certainly ill prepared. So good catch.
So not anatomically ill constructed.
No, I I would think. I mean, you don't have to look much further than some of the tribes that live kind of pre-industrialized lives, the Hadza, um, as an example, who are, very much hunter-gatherer existence, and they will my understanding is one of the advantages to human beings constructed anatomically the way that they are is that they were able to outrun larger animals. They could stay moving longer than, say, an elephant or some other large animal, enough that they could tire it out and then kill it, harvest it, and then take that meat back to their community. Now, for everyone who's listening to this, I want you to imagine trying to outrun a large wild animal, just stay moving for that long. I think most people would balk at that concept nowadays, but anatomically, certainly we are built for that. That's one of our evolutionary advantages.
You mean we're built to run? How
Ah,
how dare you?
Kelly Starrett references, dear God. Um, yes, we are 100%.
All right, if you say so.
Yeah, I know.
I feel like there was something else in that comment that I was going to touch on, but
Yeah,
oh, I know what it is.
yeah.
Um, you don't think that those tribes like get together and do a bunch of dynamic warm up exercises before they go out on the hunt?
I don't know. I don't know. And if they do, it's probably something that's better than what we do in the gym. Um, I There is a part of me that wants to believe no. They get their stuff and they go, they do their thing. Um, but there's a consideration for that. They're not living sedentary lifestyles. They don't have a concept for that. If they don't do things, they die. So there's always something to be done to stave off starvation, dehydration, uh, threat of some natural disaster, wiping out their village or something like that. There's always work to be done. So sedentary lifestyles don't exist for them. So in that particular regard, I have to imagine that they are just at a ready state that we can't imagine right now.
Ready state. Um, yeah, so essentially their lifestyle makes them generally physically prepared for what they have to do on a daily basis, including running down large animals over long distances.
It's not that their lifestyle makes them generally physically prepared. Their lifestyle necessitates that. And so I don't think that most people, certainly, let's say in the Western world, I don't think most people have an understanding of just how far removed they actually are from anything approaching uh, the need for true survival skills. So a person living in a tribe, um, pre-industrialized society, it's not hyperbole to say that if they don't go out and gather water, if they don't find that animal and take it and harvest it, someone that they know, maybe them, is going to die. That's a very real consequence. It's not, "Oh my god, I'm going to die." No, they will perish and not be there the next day. And so their life necessitates it. In our first world, very privileged, I'm standing at a desk, standing at, a flat screen monitor with like light pixels bouncing off of me with a microphone. This is not the lifestyle they're living. I need to train in a way that provides me with general physical preparedness, because that that person living the pre-industrialized lifestyle is also living a life free of chronic disease, free of, rampant obesity inside of their society, free of the need for, you know, non-life-threatening medical intervention, right? No one over there is going to their doctor for Ozempic shots. Whereas over here, I need to train in a very deliberate manner to live a life that gives me the outcomes that they have, ideally without having to experience the threat of death daily.
So true. So true. So, for those who might not be familiar, but have seen maybe some videos of competitions and things like
Mm.
that, what, I guess, what should more people know about CrossFit?
It's not it's not what you think it is. So, um, and as another example, nobody would watch the NFL and confuse what they see on the NFL with the flag football game that's going on down the street. They're playing the same game, but it's not the same. And nobody is unclear about that, right? Nobody's mother is looking at that person and being like, well, sure, little Johnny's going to be playing for the Tigers next week. What is seen on the internet or on ESPN or whatever that is CrossFit is typically high level CrossFit competitions. It's like our Olympics. So you're looking at the highest possible level of the sport. Now, when I say it's not what you think it is those things. And when I say those things, I mean those movements. One of the contentions of CrossFit is that our needs as human beings differ by degree, not by kind. And so if I want to dive in on that, that would be every human with a baseline level of functional capacity needs to be able to hinge at the waist without pain, needs to be able to squat and lift an object, needs to be able to press an object over their head, needs to be able to get their heart rate up and sustain an elevated heart rate without experiencing myocardial infarct, needs to be able to support their own body weight as they are hanging or pressing or insert movement here. Those are variations on movements, gymnastics, weightlifting, endurance, etc.
Getting themselves onto and off of the ground.
Absolutely. A burpee is a functional movement. Nobody wants to hear this, but it's the truth. A burpee is a functional movement. Its real world crossover is that human being who has a fear of falling and not getting up to the person who regularly does burpees in their training. That is no longer a fear, and therefore it's no longer a danger, right? So that's an example. If our needs differ by degree and not kind, then everybody should be training in a manner that includes hinging at the waist, squatting, pressing, pulling, includes both unloaded and loaded movements, gymnastics and weightlifting, includes some kind of aerobic or endurance work, whether that's actually endurance work, it's long distance, or simply aerobic, where it's shorter, sprinty style efforts. And there's benefits to both. Everybody should be doing those things. Now, you do not need to be clean and jerking 300 pounds to the shoulder and then into the overhead position. However, your body should have the capacity to move a load of some kind to the overhead position. And we have found the jerk to be the most mechanically safe and effective means of doing that. So we don't teach people how to do a clean and jerk because I want you to get better at the clean and jerk. I teach you how to do a clean and jerk because there's a real world carryover to getting an object to your shoulder and then being able to stabilize your core, drive your body upward, and then use that momentum to drive that object upward and get that object into the overhead position so you can put it on a shelf or put it on a rack or whatever that ends up being. There's real world carryover for all of these things. And so for the person who's looking at the CrossFit Games, it would be very easy to say, there's nothing that I do that looks like that. I'm not interested in that. And that what I'm seeing has no place in my life. And so you're wrong. What they are doing absolutely does have a place in your life. Maybe not at that load, maybe not at that difficulty or that skill level or that time domain, whatever it is. But I've seen this, I don't know how many times in my entire career. And I used to run the on ramp program, the new athlete program at a couple gyms. People are more capable than they give themselves credit for. And they find it out in short order. But everybody has that same um, everybody has that same fear that what they see is not for them without understanding the relationship between their real life and then how to train for real life.
Whenever you say uh, varies by degree, not kind, you're essentially saying that the needs of these elite CrossFitters, their their goal is like functional dominance,
Mhm,
correct?
mhm,
But the needs of maybe Grandma Doris,
mhm.
who also does CrossFit,
Yep.
is looking for functional competence.
Yes. And that's an extreme distinction that highlights your point very well. Um, an elite level athlete needs to be able to deadlift. Let's say elite level male athlete at the CrossFit Games needs to be able to deadlift north of 500 pounds, right? At or north of 500 pounds. A functional human being, I would say the goal is being able to deadlift some significant percentage of their body weight. That is a functionally capable human being, regardless of age. And so for Grandma Doris, my goal would be, okay, Grandma Doris, do you understand that every single time you set your groceries down on the ground and then you have to go pick them back up, you're effectively doing a deadlift? First, you understand the need for this movement. Cool. I'm going to make it so that every time you set your groceries down, you're not going to worry about what your back is going to do when you pick up that bag of groceries. And we're going to get you stronger and more capable,
Those groceries better not be her one rep max deadlift.
right? Absolutely. And
Okay.
what's funny about that is for a certain population, there is a real world concern that that bag of groceries is the physical limitation. That's how far some people in the population have, how far deconditioned they have become. There is also a group that is concerned that they are physically incapable of lifting anything greater than that, while their actual capacity is 3, 4, 6, 10 times what that very moderate load is. And they've told themselves a story about how physically capable they are that is functionally a lie.
No doubt.
Yeah.
Our bodies are amazing vehicles.
Yeah.
We just have to build them up and prove to ourselves what they're capable of.
Yeah. And it doesn't happen overnight and it doesn't happen by accident either. You hope it doesn't happen by accident because unfortunately, typically the way most people find out how capable they are is when they're placed in a life-threatening situation. And I wouldn't wish that upon anybody.
Agreed. Sam, thank you so much for taking the time.
It's my pleasure, man. I love talking about this stuff. So, you keep asking questions, I'm going to keep answering them.
Perfect. Maybe we'll have to have you back again to talk about a different supporting model.
Yes, I'd love to be able to help. Thank you so much for having me.
Wonderful. Thanks again.
Yeah, yeah.